Can a fragrance be creamy and Lactonic? Yes. Can it be creamy but not Lactonic? Yes. But can it be Lactonic and not creamy? I don't think so. Hey you guys, welcome back to the channel. It's Charlotte. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you're new, hi, I'm Charlotte. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. I love perfume, I love fragrance, I love beauty, I love all things makeup. If all those things sound like your kind of thing, definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell because I have a lot of exciting videos coming up. I have a coconut scents video coming up. I have some reviews coming up of Sweet Diamond Pink Pepper by Kayali. I have a lot of exciting videos coming up, so definitely subscribe, hit the notification bell, stick around, say hello in the comments. I love it when you guys introduce yourselves in the comments. If you're a returning viewer and subscriber, thank you so much for being here with me today. And thank you so much for all of the really great, amazing vibes you guys are giving me. I feel like you guys are my people. I'm so happy to have that we found each other. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you so much for your generosity and your kindness and your comments. Thank you. So today, the video we've all been waiting for, or well, I've been waiting for. Okay, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, okay? I've been putting this video off for a little bit. I was really putting a lot of pressure on myself, and I knew a few of you were really excited about this video, and I just really wanted to do a good job for you guys, so I definitely put more time into preparing for this video, but also more preparation made me kind of become paranoid and overthink things maybe a little bit too, because the reason I'm doing this is because I love Lactonic scents and I have a very personal passion for them, but I'm not a chemist, I'm not a perfumer, I'm not a scientist, so I can't say everything there has to be said about Lactonic scents, and there's lots of other places that you can find that kind of information, and I'll definitely redirect you to some other resources if you're interested in that more kind of technical knowledge. Yeah, basically, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a chemist, I'm just a Lactonics lover who has a lot of experience with Lactonic scents and Lactonic foods, and who has a lot of passion for describing the nuances and trying to pinpoint what those nuances and differences are. This is going to be at least a two-parter because you guys, this is going to be a long video. In this video, we're going to go over what Lactonic scents are, what Lactonic scents are not, what a Lactonic scent does in terms of texture and just what it does for a fragrance in general. And we're also going to go into detailed notes and associated perfumes that are Lactonic or creamy or milky and all of that. And then in my next video, I'm going to go more in depth into specific perfume recommendations. So I'm going to talk to you about the scents that to me were sort of a Lactonic's disappointment. I will also cover fragrances that are my favorite fragrances that are Lactonic scents, and I will also share with you Lactonic scents that are on my radar because I do not have all the Lactonic scents, okay? And there's a lot of really incredible looking Lactonic scents out there, and so I want to share those with you guys. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely stick around and let's get into it. Before we get into this, please let me know how you feel about Lactonic scents and what does Lactonic mean to you specifically, because while there is a objective definition and I'm going to share it with you, a lot of it is subjective, and in this video I'm going to share with you what I feel Lactonic scents really are and what Lactonic scents do for my nose. So yeah, let me know down in the comments below what you think of Lactonic scents, what Lactonic scents do for you, and how would you describe a Lactonic scent? My point of view comes more from someone who just really is obsessed with all things Lactonic, whether it be culinary, whether it be in food or fragrance or in all areas, you know what I mean? So that's my perspective as someone who is a big lover of Lactonic scents and who is able to detect a lot of nuances in Lactonic scents. So I want to start off with a definition of Lactonic, okay? So Lactonic comes from lactones, which there you go. I'm not going to go into all the science of that. There's actually two different kinds of lactones, and I don't want to say anything that could be wrong too, and this stuff that's not my area, okay? So yeah, if you're interested in that, I will give you resources for that. But Yeah, lactonic. Lactones is from lactose, the milk sugar. Lactose is the sugar found in milk, right? So you have fructose, you have sucrose, you have glucose, fructose, sucrose, galactose is another milk sugar. But lactose is, you know, that milk sugar that some people tolerate, some people don't tolerate so well, but it really is the defining. I really enjoy using the word lactonic because it's a very specific kind of accord to me. So for example, you can have something, this is going to be a long video, I'm sure of it, by the way. I might have to split it up. So I'm gonna have to look at my notes here, okay? I've got a lot of notes. Lactonic, adjective of, this is like the actual dictionary definition, okay? Of, pertaining to or derived from lactone. Etymology from lactose. Lactonic, pertaining to or designating an acid obtained by the oxidation of milk sugar. When we talk about lactose, right, it's milk sugar. So it's not just creamy, okay? It's also sweet. And this is where I have some interesting questions that I've had to ask myself and that I think help determine what kind of lactonic or creamy scent you're looking for and how to differentiate between these kinds of adjectives to look for what you are really wanting. Because I have found that a lot of times what people describe as creamy or powdery or smooth is very subjective, and they are not interpreted the same way as I interpret them. The way I interpret some things are not the same way that other people interpret them. So it does help to come up with a more specific definition. So it's not just creamy, it's also sweet. And this is where I ask myself these questions. Can a fragrance, I wrote them down, I'm like, I have to look at them. Can a fragrance be creamy and lactonic? Yes. Can it be creamy but not lactonic? Yes. But can it be lactonic and not creamy? And I said, I don't think so. And I mean, I'm totally up to hearing what your thoughts are about it, but yeah, so a fragrance in my eyes, or so far with the scents I've smelled and what I have and the knowledge that I currently have, a fragrance can be creamy and lactonic. It can be creamy but not lactonic. But if it's lactonic, it is necessarily creamy. I don't know. What do you think about that? Again, I said I don't think so, but we're gonna look into that. Next, I want to talk about what can mimic a lactonic scent. And again, this is where there's gonna be some technical stuff that I'm not gonna go into, but if you're interested in, I definitely highly suggest you go and seek that information out. There are natural, I think, like lactones in certain white flowers that can mimic a lactonic scent, so that's why you'll find a lot of things like gardenia, tiare, jasmine, tuberose. These can all sort of mimic a lactonic scent, and when they're paired with an actual lactonic note, it's just kind of amplified, right? And another distinction I want to make is that lactonic is not buttery, right? Okay, so butter, so there's all these different words. So there's buttery, smooth, creamy, lactonic, rich. So can a fragrance be buttery and rich and smooth and not lactonic? Absolutely. Butter lacks the lactose, right, of milk. Butter is denser. Butter is more dense. It's fattier, oilier. It lacks the sweetness of milk. And if you veer too far into the lactonic territory, then you go into like butyric acid territory, which can smell like cheese, it can smell like old socks, it can smell, you know, like just funky, like a little bit like vomit to some people, or spit up. So there's a whole range, and a lot of times I find in perfume it's not a literal milk note that will create the lactonic accord. It'll be a combination of different notes that really bring out the lactonic accord. So I want to go in depth into these different notes and how they show up as being lactonic, or how they can become lactonic. So I hope this is going to make sense. Let's just see. First, we have something like Osmanthus, which is a fruity floral with apricot leather animalic nuances. It can feel creamy. It can feel creamy and lactonic in a soft apricot-y animalic sort of way. And that's also why you'll often find Osmanthus paired with leather paired with milk, paired with other lactonic notes. Sometimes you'll find it paired with peach or apricot because it amplifies those nuances in Osmanthus. A lot of Osmanthus lactonic scents will pair Osmanthus with peach and milk, for example. When I see those combinations, I can imagine what it's going to smell like. So some examples of those kinds of lactonic scents that feature Osmanthus would be like Minscamudo. This has, oof, that's a lot of sound. Sorry, maybe you like it. ASMR. This has a faint, again, sort of creamy feel to it, and that's mainly because of the combination of the Osmanthus and the leather and the vanilla. It gives a very rich, unctuous, creamy feel to it. But is it lactonic? Not quite, I wouldn't say. But it does give that creamy edge, like we're getting close, right? You have Vanille Exclusif. Again, this one has peach, Osmanthus. Does that have peach? I think it has peach. Anyway, it has peach or apricot, one of those, you know? Peach, Osmanthus, and whipped cream. And you guys, there you go. The whipped cream just adds that element that makes it... This one I would say is absolutely lactonic. And it's because of that combination. It might have not been achieved just with the whipped cream note. I often find that whipped cream, or just that one note, is not necessarily enough to give it that lactonic feel. So I knew when I purchased this, for example, that it was gonna have that lactonic feel to it, even if, like, I didn't know if I was gonna like the fragrance necessarily, but I knew it was going to have that milkiness to it, and it does, just by looking at the notes. Another one is the scent Hugo Boss Intense. See, this is one that's more kind of like the Bella one, in the sense it doesn't have the animalic notes of this one, which has the leather, but this does have the Osmanthus with the peach. I really like this, but again, it lacks that milk note in any form. It could be milk, it could be whipped cream. A lot of times it's whipped cream, I find. But it's creamy. It can even sometimes be described as lactonic by some people, but this is not a true lactonic scent to me, like for my tastes, in my opinion. But it is creamy, it is smooth, it is, yeah. And then finally we have Carolina Herrera's, this is from the Privé line, I think. It's just called Privé. Yeah, CH Privé. This one, again, is one that's very creamy and can almost become lactonic, but not quite. It has the leather, it has the vanilla, and it has the Osmanthus. So yeah, this would not necessarily be described as lactonic, nor would, you know, some of these other ones, except for the one that had the whipped cream in it. But it gets close, you know, it's like in the same ballpark. It's creamy, it has that smooth, rich mouthfeel, but nose feel wise, you know what I mean? Next we have cream, or whipped cream. Usually it will show up as whipped cream in the notes, but this one is, it can be literal, but what I find is that it adds it's slightly less sweet than a milk note, and a milk note will be flatter, less full and fluffy. The whipped cream note, I find, always adds to fragrances a very fluffy creaminess. So it's not a dense creaminess, it's not sobering, it's fluffy. And what better way than to start whipped cream note with, just like I was saying, fluffy cloud. Cloud has whipped cream in it. It also has coconut, which we're going to get into, because coconut is also used to make scents lactonic and is often paired with white florals or yellow florals to make it more creamy and lactonic. It's a much brighter sort of lactonicness with whipped cream, I find. Oh, so mouth-watering. But yeah, so you have Cloud that has whipped cream. You have the Vanille Exclusif, which I already told you about. It's a very whipped, it really does feel like a whipped scent. There's some more that have whipped cream. Here I have La Vie Belle Intense, and this one has whipped cream and hazelnuts in the bottom, or in the base. This one really does add, again, like that sort of whipped consistency in the base, which just kind of, I find, very, if you're someone who is really bothered by any sort of sharpness in a fragrance, whipped cream really does kind of smooth and round out the fragrance, in my opinion. And there are sharp elements in La Vie Belle Intense that I can smell, and so I know that in the dry down they will be much rounder, much smoother, And that's generally what I find whipped cream does, you know, because it's not really a literal, it's interpretive, right? In perfumery, like no one's adding essential oils of whipped cream, you know what I mean? It's texture, and I enjoy whipped cream in fragrances for that reason. Another one that has that whipped cream note is Trussardi Sound of Donna. Again, this one is very, very fluffy. Like you smell it and it feels like, it's like very rich and smooth, and it feels dense, but not opaque. It feels like a cloud, very similar to cloud in the texture of this fragrance. This has been called a dupe for This Is Her by Zadig and Voltaire, and unfortunately I would not call it a dupe. I actually bought this because I was hoping for it to be a dupe, and while I do really, really like it, it's not at all a dupe. To me, it's not at all a dupe. I understand that it has the same like chestnut whipped creaminess to it, but it lacks completely the lactonic element that's kind of extreme in This Is Her that some people actually detect as like vomit. It doesn't go there at all. It's a lot more of like a whipped cream, almondy, rich whipped cream sort of scent, which I think a lot of you would like. A lot of you who have my similar taste, you would like this, and this one is really affordable too. And the last one I have to show for you is this one, which is Angel's Fruity Fair. What I really like about this one is that it's one of the only Angels in my collection that has that more lactonic sort of milky smoothness to it, other than another one which I'm going to talk about later, but has that literal whipped cream note that really kind of rounds out and tones down the sharpness of the red berries. So I really appreciate it in this fragrance, and I really like how, you guys know I love Mugler, but I really like how Mugler does that in this fragrance, which takes the very literal creamy whipped cream note and juxtaposes it with the very, very strong, and I've said it before, sort of like intense red berries air freshener, like air freshener red berries, right? Which sounds terrible to some, but for some reason with Mugler it works. This super strong synthetic air freshener red berries is just really beautifully sort of contained by the whipped cream. That's how I feel with this fragrance. I really enjoy it for that reason. I find it pretty unique. Okay, so now we're gonna go into milk and condensed milk. So, which would be like dulce de leche. So dulce de leche is condensed milk that is then sweetened. So think of like condensed milk and then condensed even more with added sugar. It is sticky, rich, sweet. I truly think dulce de leche is one of the best lactonic notes actually, and one of the most, you know, affordable scents in my collection has the dulce de leche note. I was trying to find it and I cannot find it. I must have put it somewhere for easy reach somewhere. For real, I'm like, I wanted it for this video. Anyway, it's you guys, it was literally right in front of me. I've been looking for it. It was right in front of me. One of those, you know? Okay, so VIP. Is it VIP? Yeah, VIP private show. Just private show. Eau de parfum. Anyway, this has a note of dulce de leche. I think it also has whipped cream. This is so nice. So yeah, this definitely, there you go, my mouth is watering. This definitely has that more milky lactonic element, which is, again, it's that lactose, it's that milk sugar. Some people consider dairy products to be addictive or addicting, by the way. So, and I'm not going to claim any truth about that, but I do have to say, subjectively, I do think dairy can be quite addictive. And this has that very, very strong lactose sort of note, and it's from the dulce de leche, clearly. I also have, this is just a discovery set that I got recently because I really wanted to test out the Kilian scents. I'm gonna let you guys know what I think of them. But Kissing has a milk note in the base, and it really does give that very, very sweet, it's just a very, very specific sweetness that I detect through taste and smell. There's not as many fragrances in my collection that have a milk note, but there are some. So we have So Scandale, which I have reviewed recently with the comparison of Jean-Paul Gaultier's Scandale line. That one has a milk note that is, to me, really, really beautiful because it's not literal milk. It's obviously there to be paired with the tuberose in that fragrance, and tuberose can smell creamy, even lactonic, but I think that this ensures that it smells more lactonic. So I really like seeing that combination when I see one of those creamy white florals with something that's actually lactonic. You know what they're trying to bring out in the white florals, you know what I mean? And I really appreciate that. And I think you'll appreciate that too if you're really into lactonic scents. So look out for that. So yeah, so Scandale, and with that raspberry note, I've told you guys before, to me it's really like bazooka, like a creamy tuberose bubblegum. It's beautiful. Also, okay, there's La Yuqawam pour Femme, which has a milk note, and this is a warm, spicy, milky fragrance. So this has a lot of cinnamon. For me, this is like a cinnamon milk sandalwood spicy scent. Really, really delicious. More of a warm, sweet, savory sort of lactonic scent, you know what I mean? Not like, this is like your main course, and what is the other one that I was looking for? This is like your main course, and this is like your dessert. So good. There's a lot more dessert scents in my collection than main courses, but there you go. This is more of a main course sort of lactonic. So if you're into like sweet lactonics or something like that, this might not be your first pick, you know what I mean? But if you're into lactonics and also spicy fragrances, pairing those two together is so nice. And actually one of my favorite scents of all time, you guys know, where is it, is Soleil au Zénith. And this is one that does not have milk in the notes, but is absolutely creamy, veering on lactonic. And if you look at the notes, what could that be? It would be sandalwood. I think it's a combination of the sandalwood, the ylang ylang, and the peach, and the vanilla. It almost smells like milk. It's amazing how a good fragrance can make something smell lactonic or milky without actually using a milk note. So yeah, Soleil au Zénith Spices is a warm, spicy fragrance with a fresh, spicy accord as well. It is also sweet, creamy, and a little bit almost lactonic. I refrain from saying lactonic because there's nothing that would really... The sandalwood is veering on lactonic, and that's where I'm gonna get to the next note. That was my next one, sandalwood, and honestly I could do an entire video, and I think I'm going to have to do an entire video on sandalwood. But sandalwood is really interesting to me because it definitely can be very lactonic, and I think the scent that really illustrates that really well too is Zadig and Voltaire, This Is Her, which, while yes, it does have a whipped cream note in this with the chestnut, which also lend a creamy accord, I really think it's the sandalwood that's doing it in this fragrance. And the thing with sandalwood is that it can veer a lot of different ways, and some people can actually find it sickeningly lactonic or creamy, or it can go too far, I think, for some people. I love sandalwood, but I totally understand why some people find it cloying in a way, or they can't do sandalwood. I do understand that. Even as a sandalwood lover, I've gotten nauseated by sandalwood before. I want to give you an example of a sandalwood that is very kind of more dry and woody, which lends more of a buttery feel, and that would be Santal Musc by Narciso Rodriguez. This is a little bit newer in my collection. I got it in the past year. I was kind of on the hunt for different sandalwoods and wanting to expand my sort of palette of sandalwood, and this one, while it was not exactly what I was looking for, it was very useful in expanding my sandalwood palette because it's very smooth and rich and buttery, but it's not lactonic. It's very dry. There's no sweetness. It can feel a little bit gag-inducing because of the butteriness of it. This, I think, would be really beautiful to layer, maybe, but so far on its own, I can sometimes get a little bit nauseated by that sandalwood creamy accord. Zadig and Voltaire. Beautiful, really sweet, lactonic, creamy sandalwood. For some people, it veers into vomit category. It's too lactonic. It veers too far. I think you will find that a lot of sandalwoods, they'll either be more dry and woody and kind of buttery, or they will go more towards the other end and be a bit more creamy, smooth. Yeah, it's a different kind of texture, to be honest. Another one that I find is not really talked about, but I really like. The performance is not at all great on this or anything like that, but the scent I really love, and I find it a little bit creamy, and that is Curious in Control by Britney Spears. And this is the kind of creaminess that can be interpreted as powdery as well, but to me that powderiness is a smooth, rounded powderiness that also kind of reminds me of creaminess. Not Lactonic, but a little bit creamy. And I think it's the Sandalwood in here. Then we have Fig, which can also create a Lactonic accord, but I find the Lactonicness of Fig to be a little bit more of a earthy sort of Lactonic. Because of that, I don't always enjoy it. I think it's very fitting that Angel Aux Croisières has a went with Fig to create a Lactonic accord, because it pairs well with that Angel Patchouli base. But that's exactly why I have a little bit more trouble with Angel Aux Croisières, the 2020 version, because the Lactonicness, the Lactonic accord from that fragrance really comes from the Fig. And you would think I would love it, and I have a little bit of trouble with it, and I think it's because it's more of a sort of dirty, earthy Lactonic accord. And again, you remember, what is lactose, what is Lactonic, what is milk? It's also animal, which is also why you will find, you know, leather with milk, suede with milk, Osmanthus is a little bit animalic. So all of those come out to bring out different facets of milk or dairy, you know what I mean? So that's not my kind. The more earthy, animalic sort of Lactonicness, it doesn't always go there. Sometimes it's a little bit more green creamy, and I prefer those kinds of figs, to be honest. I think I have one that I guess could be kind of described like that. This one is Kilian's Adults, and this one is a little bit creamy or Lactonic because of the combination of the sandalwood and the fig nectar in it. But it's more on the woody side. This is a more dry woody sandalwood, but because of the fig, it does have a little bit of creaminess. And it doesn't show a Lactonic accord, and it's not Lactonic, but it does have a little bit of creaminess from that sandalwood and the fig. It's also very green. It has the hedione in here, which is kind of like a synthetic green smelling jasmine. Oh, and it also has literal green notes, so there you go. So yeah, fig is a hit and miss Lactonic note for me. Let me know how you feel about fig. The next one we have is coconut, and coconut will often be combined. Coconut can go all kinds of ways, and I do have a coconut fragrance video coming up soon that is really going to be about that, because I have different kinds of coconut scents in my collection, and I do have preference for certain kinds of coconuts. Yeah, it can go all kinds of ways, but coconut is often used to add a creamy Lactonic sort of feel to a fragrance. It can also be very tropical, of course. So when it's paired with white florals, yellow florals, milk, obviously, especially gardenia, tiare, it will be very creamy, even sometimes Lactonic. So a good example of that would be like Kate Spade's Live Colorfully, which has coconut and gardenia, and it really does smell milky. Very beautiful in a, again, milky in a, yeah, Lactonic, like sweet and more watery than cream, more creamy than something like butter, of course. Definitely more of like a, yeah, like a coconut water milkiness, with the gardenia kind of flushing out the water and making it more creamy. Really, really beautiful. Live Colorfully. We of course have the Only One Intense, which has that beautiful combination of coconut and the jasmine. Oh, just velvety, creamy, smooth, full. It feels full and round, you know? It's like the scent is radiating out equally. It's not just going in one direction, you know? I think that's what's really satisfying about the Only One Intense. Really, really beautiful. So again, like, would you call it Lactonic? Not necessarily, just no, because there's more going on, but it does have that creamy, smooth accord, you know what I mean? So I think it's useful to understand more about Lactonic scents, because then you can really kind of navigate notes and research your fragrances a little bit more effectively and usefully for yourself. Because see, for example, part of the reason that I got the Only One Intense and part of the reason that it appeals to me is because it looked like it might be creamy and rounded. Not necessarily because I like coconut. Actually, if anything, and I will bring this up in my coconut video, coconut is not one of my favorite notes, and I have a little bit of trouble with it, even though I do really, really appreciate it, and I have it in a lot of fragrances. In this fragrance, it doesn't scream coconut, but it totally is because of the coconut, that it has that creamy, round creaminess, you know? Same as Versace Cristal Noir. It has that gardenia and the coconut and the sandalwood, which totally make it creamy and smooth and rich and unctuous. And again, it's a texture thing, right? But why do people tend to like Lactonic scents so much is because I think they really enjoy that smooth, creamy, full-bodied sort of scent. Another example would be Just Cavalli, and this one is a very intense tiare, that creamy sort of Lactonic white floral. Again, I would not describe this as Lactonic, but it is kind of creamy and smooth and voluptuous in scent, in texture. We have tuberose, of course. A great tuberose creamy scent, for example, would be Zadig and Voltaire Just Rock. This has, it's the sandalwood, okay, you guys? There's a lot of sandalwood and vanilla. Tuberose shows up as very creamy and smooth and round. This is a scent that if you like This Is Her, you might like this one because it definitely has the This Is Her DNA or like sandalwoody creamy base. It's just a little bit more woody though. It's definitely more woody and dry. Woody and dry. The other tuberose scent I wanted to show you, or like it has tuberose in it, and it's creamy and round and smooth, is by Maison Margiela de Paris. Maison Margiela Paris, and this is Mutiny. And this scent I don't hear anyone talk about, and I've been wearing this a lot. I really like it, okay? But would I recommend it? I'm not sure yet, you guys. You know why? Because this is not very affordable, and I have a feeling, I'm not sure, okay? But I have a feeling, okay? Because when I smelled this, I know this is kind of a tangent, I'm deviating a little bit, but you're gonna appreciate it, okay? I might save you some money. This, when I got it, reminded me a lot, texture and scent-wise, to Trussardi Sound of Donna. Now, not at all the same scents, but the texture was so similar. And then when I look down, it reminds me of Donna, the white one, the classic one that's actually really, really kind of getting popular and hyped up right now on YouTube, is marked as a possible dupe for this. And the notes and like the accords are very similar. So it makes me wonder if that one might be a dupe of this one. I'm not sure. I am thinking of maybe eventually purchasing it so that I can make that comparison for you guys. But if it is, huge price difference. This is if you get it on rebate or like on the fragrance buy or fragrance discount sites, it's still going to be almost $150 Canadian or like 120 US or over $100 for sure. Whereas the Donna one, the white one, I think you can get for like, I don't know, I'm sure you can get it for like 50 bucks. It's a lot. It's definitely less than half the price, if not like a third of the price of this. So that's the only reason I have been hesitating, and I don't want to recommend it to you necessarily if you can get the exact same scent for much less. You know what I mean? So, but it is nice. I do like it, okay? So this one has that tuberose, it has those white florals, and it is very smooth, creamy, and round, okay? So it's still very fruity and floral, but there's no sharpness. It's all rounded and creamy. Yeah, and I think that you will find that with this one, again, you have the leather with the vanilla and the tuberose, and I think that's what adds these sort of more rich, creamy, more, I don't know, I feel like leather can add that animalic edge that just makes it from, that steers it away from just being like a, more of like a plant creaminess to more of a natural, milky creaminess. You know what I mean? Animalic. It's not animalic. It's just animalics are used for that, right? It lends that facet that makes it that much more of a true creamy Lactonic sort of scent. So yeah, I really enjoy how those are mixed in this fragrance. This is a funny fragrance in that there's a lot going on in the notes, but it doesn't feel like you can't distinguish all the notes apart. It's very smooth, it's very rich, it's very well blended, as some people say, and you can't detect the oud or even the leather necessarily. Like, it's very blended, it's very smooth. It's like, it's actually just as like smooth and round as like CH Privé, but this one like has not many notes. This one feels like that. They both have that sort of smooth, rich creaminess. We are getting to almonds and nuts, and I was gonna say nuts, but really almonds. There's like, almonds are really big in fragrances to add a very creamy sort of feel to the fragrance, some density, and the nuttiness of almonds can be very milky. It can. Sometimes you'll even find words like almond milk or coconut milk in the notes, and so that gives you an idea to an indication of how it's going to show up in the fragrance, because sometimes you will have like green almond or something, which usually indicates that it's going to be a little bit more sharp, maybe a little bit more green, a little bit more bitter. But yeah, a lot of fragrances that have almond, especially paired with vanilla, tonka bean, whipped cream, it usually tends to be kind of dense and creamy and smooth. So again, a lot of them. Trussardi has almonds. Delicious. Girl of Now, almond and pistachio. So is it lactonic? Not per se, not lactonic per se, but it is kind of creamy and rounded and smooth and has the same sort of texture and density of a lactonic scent. Oh, mouth-watering. Another one I wanted to kind of mention here was rice, which again, I am going to do a full rice video. You guys know already, and there were a few votes for rice, so it was pretty popular. But rice also I find adds a sort of fluffiness like the whipped cream, without adding any kind of sweetness to the mix. So it will kind of give like I like, for example, here you have Kenzo Amour. This is just such a beautiful cherry blossom and rice vanilla scent. And it smells really creamy and powdery at the same time. I think it has frangipani too in it. All of those combine together to make a very creamy, velvety texture. That's also why I think it's not an accident or a coincidence you will find fragrances like Nuit Blanche that have rice and milk in them. This one has rice, it has caramel, it has milk. And the very first accord is lactonic, so you know I had to get it. And I already like black opium, so I knew this would be like probably my favorite. And yeah, it is. This is definitely my main black opium. If I had to get just one, I think it would be this one. Yeah. And again, if you look at the base notes of Nuit Blanche, what ensures that it's lactonic? It's not just the milk note, right? It has vanilla, it has the rice, it has the sandalwood, it has the caramel, it has the orange blossom. All of those combined give you a hint as to where it's going, where it's headed, you know, which is in lactonic territory. Oh, I also forgot. Okay, so for almond, also, when almond is combined with heliotrope, it can give a very sort of smooth, rich, round pastry or confectionery sort of feel to it. That combination of almond and heliotrope is really, really beautiful and is found in so many fragrances. So yeah, so I find that rice, especially like rice water, so if you think of like the water, you know, that you soak your rice in or something, that starchy water can have a sort of smooth, rounded, almost creamy sort of buffering agent around other notes or tastes. So that's how sometimes rice can give that sort of creamy lactonic edge. There's also praline, which is not, again, is kind of like, it's not a literal note or anything, and praline doesn't really exist, but again, praline can come off as being very lactonic. Where is my signature praline? Okay, praline. So think of Chagaf Ouds. Where does the lactonicness come from? Chagaf Oud is from the praline and the vanilla, right? But praline can also be less lactonic and more just chocolatey or more just nutty, depending on how it's played around with other notes. But if you see praline with something that's like milk, and you know what I mean? If you see more and more of these lactonic sort of notes together, it gives more of an indication of the texture of the fragrance. And finally, for butter, I only have one fragrance with butter in it, and it kind of confirms my feeling of what butter is as a note. So the only fragrance I have that has a butter note is by Guerlain, and this is Mon Exclusif. Yeah, Mon Exclusif. And this has a butter note among many other notes in the base, and it's very similar to Mon Guerlain original. So to be honest, if anyone, I know this is discontinued, and if anyone was feeling some FOMO or fear of missing out, I'm gonna be honest with you guys, you're not missing out. Like, you're okay. If anything, I would say if you want an accompaniment to amp up your Mon Guerlain, get the Mon Guerlain Intense. This one's gonna be the amped up one, okay? Because this is very similar. It just has a little bit less sharpness than the regular Mon Guerlain, and it has a more dense, buttery base. Slightly. It's so slight though, you guys. So that's why, you know, I say butter is there to kind of illustrate that it's a more dense creaminess, but not necessarily sweeter or more lactonic. You know what I mean? So butter doesn't necessarily lead to a lactonic scent. It just kind of smooths and rounds out and flushes out the edges. So to finish off this first installment, I want to just mention some more notes that I think pair really well with all the lactonic notes we just spoke about. I think that you will find that these notes also tend to pair very well with them. So we have leather, suede, like I was saying, osmanthus, apricot, all those animalic sort of notes that are animalic in the literal sense. Tonka bean, coumarin. Coumarin actually has a, like, again, this is the technical stuff that I'm not knowledgeable about, but I think I started reading about how there was like lactones and coumarin or something. Anyway, I was like, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself and I don't want to say things that I don't know what I'm saying and I don't know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean? So I will let you discover that. I think but it did kind of make me go, okay, it makes sense then why all of these go well together too, and perfumers know this, right? They play around. It really is an art. So tonka bean, vanilla, cashmerean, cashmere woods, musk, cinnamon, nutmeg, solar notes, a milky lactonic solar note perfume, frangipani, ylang ylang, heliotrope, orris root. That tends to be heliotrope, and orris root is more powdery, but they kind of give that smooth, creamy powderiness that I'm saying I like. Iris too, lovely. Fruits, berries, you guys get it. A lot of things go well with lactonic accords, and yeah, I think that's my favorite thing about lactonic scents is that you can find them in all different kinds of perfumes that smell completely different, but they all have this accord in common that I really love, that I think people gravitate towards. Some people gravitate towards those. So I hope this was helpful to you. I hope it was interesting to you. And I would love to know more about your feelings about lactonic scents, what your thoughts are about lactonic scents, what kind of lactonic scents you tend to seek out or are looking for. Because the next video I'm going to do is going to be going into some of my lactonic disappointments. I also want to share with you my favorite lactonic scents. And I also want to share with you some lactonic scents that are on my radar, because there's a few really good ones out there, and whether I have them or not, which at the moment I don't. Remember, there's over 7,000 perfumes in the world. We cannot own them all. You might be interested in them too, so I want to share those with you. In the meantime, I hope this video was helpful to you. I hope it was what you were looking for. I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that it was entertaining for you in some way as well. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know down in the comments below if there's anything else you would like for me to cover on lactonic scents. Next time I will cover the perfumes, right? So the perfumes that kind of disappointed me in lactonics, the perfumes that I really love that are lactonic, and the perfumes that are on my radar that I think you might be interested in as well. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you so much for all the lovely comments and support. It means so much to me. I love making these videos for you guys. So until we see each other again, please take care of yourself, and I will see you very soon. Bye.